Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, lived a young princess named Snow White. She was as beautiful as a winter's day, with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. But her stepmother, the queen, was a vain and wicked woman. Every day, she would gaze into her magic mirror and ask, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" And every day, the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest of all." This pleased the queen, for she knew the mirror never lied. But as Snow White grew, her beauty blossomed, surpassing even the queen's. One fateful day, the queen asked her mirror the usual question, but this time the answer was different. "My queen, you are fair, it is true. But Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen's heart filled with jealousy and rage. She could not bear to be second to anyone in beauty. Her envy grew so fierce that she decided Snow White must be eliminated. She summoned her most trusted huntsman and gave him a terrible order. "Take Snow White deep into the forest," she commanded, her voice cold as ice. "And, as proof that you have done my bidding, bring me back her heart." The huntsman, though his own heart ached at the thought, had to obey. He led the unsuspecting princess into the dense woods. But when he drew his knife, he looked into Snow White's innocent eyes and found he couldn't do it. He couldn't harm such a kind and gentle soul. "Run away, child," he urged her. "Run deep into the forest and never come back." To deceive the evil queen, he hunted a wild boar and brought its heart back to the palace. The queen, believing Snow White was gone forever, was overjoyed. Meanwhile, poor Snow White was alone and terrified in the vast dark forest. She ran and ran, thorns tearing at her clothes and strange shadows seeming to leap from every tree. She ran until her legs could carry her no further, and she collapsed weeping in a small clearing. As the sun began to rise, she awoke to find herself surrounded by curious forest animals. They seemed to sense her kindness and led her through the trees to a tiny, peculiar cottage. The door was ajar, so she peeked inside. Everything was miniature. A small table was set with 7 little plates, 7 little cups, and 7 little chairs. Upstairs, there were 7 little beds, all neatly made. The cottage was a bit messy, so Snow White, with her good heart, decided to clean it up to thank whoever lived there. After tidying the whole house, she felt exhausted. She tried each little bed, but none were quite right until she found the 7th one, which was perfect. She lay down and quickly fell into a deep sleep. Later that day, the owners of the cottage returned. They were the 7 dwarfs who worked all day in the nearby mines, digging for gold and jewels. Their names were Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey. They were shocked to find their home disturbance and even more surprised to find a beautiful young woman asleep in one of their beds. At first, they were suspicious. Who was she? What was she doing here? But as she woke up and told them her sad story, their hearts melted. They felt sorry for the princess and offered her a place to stay. "You can live with us," they said, "if you'll cook and clean and keep our cottage tidy." Snow White happily agreed. She had found a new home and 7 new friends. The dwarfs warned her to be very careful. "Your stepmother is a witch," they said. "She will soon find out you are alive. Don't let anyone into the cottage while we are away at the mines." And they were right. Back at the castle, the queen, feeling confident, approached her magic mirror. "Magic mirror on the wall, who now is the fairest one of all?" Imagine her fury when the mirror replied, "Over the 7 jeweled hills, beyond the 7th fall, in the cottage of the 7 dwarfs, Snow White is fairest of all." The queen was beside herself with rage. She realized the huntsman had tricked her. Now, she would have to deal with Snow White herself. Disguising herself as an old peddler woman, she traveled to the dwarf's cottage. She carried a basket of shiny red apples, but one of them was special. It was the poison apple, beautiful on the outside, but filled with a sleeping spell. She knocked on the cottage door, offering her wares. Snow White, remembering the dwarf's warning, refused to let her in, but the old woman was cunning. She offered a wishing apple and took a bite from the harmless side to prove it was safe. Tempted by the delicious-looking fruit, Snow White forgot her caution. She took a single bite from the poisoned side and immediately fell to the floor in a deep, death-like sleep. The queen, cackling with glee, fled back to her castle, believing she had finally won. When the 7 dwarfs returned that evening, they found Snow White lying lifeless on the floor. They were heartbroken. They tried everything to revive her, but nothing worked. Believing she was gone, they couldn't bear to bury her in the cold ground. She was too beautiful. So, they built a coffin of glass and gold, placed her inside and kept a constant watch over her in a forest clearing. For a long, long time, Snow White lay in her glass coffin, her beauty untouched by the passing seasons. One day, a prince from a neighboring kingdom was riding through the forest and came upon the clearing. He was captivated by the sight of the beautiful maiden in the glass coffin. He had heard tales of a princess with skin as white as snow and was certain it was her. He approached the dwarfs and begged them to let him take her back to his castle, promising to cherish her forever. The dwarfs, seeing his genuine love and sorrow, agreed. As his servants lifted the glass coffin to carry it away, one of them stumbled. The jolt dislodged the piece of poised apple from Snow White's throat. Her eyes fluttered open. She sat up, alive and well. The curse was broken. The prince was overjoyed, and the dwarfs danced with happiness. Snow White and the prince fell deeply in love. He asked her to be his wife, and she joyfully accepted. They returned to his kingdom and planned a grand wedding. Everyone in the land was invited, including, of course, a certain neighboring queen. The evil queen, not knowing the bride was her stepdaughter, prepared to attend, eager to see this new beautiful princess. When she arrived at the wedding and saw that the bride was none other than Snow White, alive and more beautiful than ever, her evil heart finally gave out from shock and rage. She was never seen again. As for Snow White and her prince, they ruled their kingdom with kindness and fairness, and surrounded by their friends, the 7 dwarfs, they lived happily ever after. Thank you so much for watching this timeless tale with us. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like and subscribe for more classic stories. We'll see you in the next one.